Hello, my name's Richard, and I'm talking about Jess The Cyber Cat. This is my cat Jess, in one of her rare, cooperative and cute moments. Normally she is a bit aloof, sometimes a bit of a pain, you know, like cats are, but she's quite adorable occasionally. So this talk is going to be about how we can use technology to either improve, I'm not sure if it improves the cat's life or improves my life. It's certainly quite a bit of fun. But I want to answer four basic questions. Is she okay? Has she gone out? Has she enough food? And where does she go when she's not in my house for all these long periods? So thankfully technology has the answer. I started all this a while back with webcams. So going away for very short periods, I could put a webcam in the house and I could monitor it, point it at the cat food bowl and see if she was eating, because basically if she's not eating, we're not seeing her eating, this is probably not okay. It's expanded after a while to 3 webcams, so I've now got one that is pointing at the cat door, one at the cat food bowls, and one that I can put anywhere in the house, so there it's pointing at the sofa in case she goes and sleeps there. And these are quite crude webcams. They can do live views, but they can also upload pictures to websites. So just 1 a second if they do movement. And I realised that you can put these together into a little animation. It's only 1 a second, so you speed it up 10 times, but it means you can flick through very quickly and get an idea of what's going on. And similarly, I've got one of these on the cat flap. Now the cat flap is at the back door, a bit harder because there's daylight coming in, and so you get, it's daylight, it's dark, it's daylight, there's sometimes sunny, sometimes cloudy, and that confuses all the motion sensors of the camera. But I found that this camera has a sound activated trigger as well. So I plugged in an external microphone, taped it to the bottom of the cat flap, so that only when it heard the click of the cat flap unlocking, one of these locking cat flap things lets her in, so when it hears the click, it will then start transmitting the images. So I can then get little animations like this. My next stage was to see if I could do anything clever with this. So my background is software, so I know how to do stuff with computers. So I've got all this on a computer server, and how can I do some analysis of these images to work out, is it definitely a cat? If so, is the cat going in, is it going out? And I came up with this scheme. So I look at all the frames in my sequence, and I look at the difference between each frame, how many pixels have changed. And if a lot of pixels have changed, I regard that as an interesting frame, something happening there. If very little has changed, it's a boring frame. And I made an interesting kind of observation. Because the start of the sequence is triggered by the cat flap unlocking, I can look at the very first frame in the sequence and make some deductions from it. If the cat in the first frame, then that means the cat was inside trying to go out. If there's no cat in the first frame, it means it will unlock the cat trying to come in from outside. So I look at the first frame, I combine all these boring frames, I average them out to average out any changes of lighting, and I get a nothing frame and I compare them. In this case, 44,000 pixels has changed. That's an awful lot. You can see all the red is all the different changed pixels. So that means there was something happening there. There's a cat there, therefore there's a cat going out. But in contrast, going the other way, here's a cat coming in, boring, interesting, boring. Combine all the boring frames, compare the first frame, very little has changed. All you can see is that little red there is a blob of the cat's head poking her head through the cat flap. Only 1,000 pixels, so that meant there wasn't a cat in the first frame, so it was a cat coming in. And so I ran with that for about a year, and it's fairly accurate, it's probably 90-95% accurate at detecting what was there and which direction, but not terribly accurate. And it's occasionally got very confused, like when it rained, got rain hitting the back door, that set off the microphone, and you just got image after image for the entire time it was raining, and not very good. So what I decided I wanted to do was put some sensors in the cat flap that will detect if the actual flap was opening, to use that as a trigger. And I played around with Arduinos up to this point, point, little computers on a chip. You see lots of those kind of things here. But it's very hard to get an Arduino on the internet. Until I came to the Maker Faire this time last year. I came as a visitor, and I discovered this chip. It's called an ESP8266. You don't have to remember that. But it's a really nice chip, and one of the makers had a Wi-Fi controlled robot, and I asked him how have you got Wi-Fi in that? And he said, oh, this chip is new. And it's like an Arduino, it's a system on a chip, tiny computer, but it's also got Wi-Fi built in. If you're interested in doing something with this, ask me afterwards, because I've got lots of information about it. Great chip. So this is my cat flap. It doesn't come out very well there. It's one of these microchip cat flaps activated by the microchip the cat's got in the back of the neck. Or you can have it on a collar like here. I've got one. Jesse's stunt double, Schrödinger, has come here to see us. And so I looked at what I could put in there. It's quite hard to put switches in there because you'll see here, you've got the whole casing all around there is an aerial to pick up the chip. And so I couldn't put anything inside because it would interfere with the aerial. But then I came across this. It's a rotary encoder. It can detect rotary motion. It's a lovely device. It's just got 3 pins, a common and 2 signal pins, and it works by having a little wheel inside with notches in it, and then 2 optical sensors, and these vanes in the notch wheel interrupt them, but at different times because they're offset. So you get these wave motions, these square tooth motions, but they're offset from each other. So if you look at the 2 signal lines, it counts in binary, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. Well, at least it does if you go in one direction. If you go in the other direction, it counts 3, 2, 1, 0, 3, 2, 1, 0. So you can look at these signals, look at the numbers, see which direction the numbers are going, and work out whether the cat flap is going that way or going that way, and by what angle. So I can detect the cat flap opening, and if it's opened enough to be able to let the cat out. So then I decided to build this in true maker fashion, hot glue gun, to glue the rotary encoder into the axle of the cat flap. So this is the rectangular flap, the axle at the top of the cat flap. Of course, Jess wanted to help with all of this. But then I put all this together. There's a cable coming out of the cat flap to this little control box. And inside we've got all the electronics, this ESP chip on a breadboard, lots of wires, some LEDs, a big red button, and a magnetic sensor, which I'll show. This is it installed on my back door. So you've got a cat flap, nice and neat control box, big red button, 2 lights, and a magnetic switch is on the door. So what this does, you've got the rotary encoder inside the cat flap, detects if the flap is moving. We've got LED lights, a red and a green one on top. Green says that Jess is indoors and red says that she's outdoors. And if both come on together, it means it's transmitting on Wi-Fi. And the magnetic sensor allows it to detect if the door is open. Because if the door is open, the cat might go out without you noticing, so it's useful to know. And the big red button is if the cat goes out when you've got the door open, you can press the red button to toggle the state so that the whole system keeps in track of where the cat is. So this is what we get out of it. I'm an app developer by trade, and so of course I provide some nice mobile apps for this. So I get little notifications come through to my phone or my tablet when Jess comes in or Jess goes out. I have an app that then lists all the times she goes in and out and how long. So again, we've got green for in and red for out, and the doors opening and closing. You can also tap any of those, because remember, we've still got a webcam pointing at the cat flap, and I'm still generating these little animated GIFs so then you can tap through and see any of those events, and you get a little video of it happening. So you can check that it's okay. So that's monitoring of where she is. And let's move on to feeding her when I go on holiday. This is a commercially available cat feeder. So it's got a hopper, enough for about 40 days food, dry food, and it'll dispense it out into the plate. And that's got a little keypad, you can program it, but it's like a 1970s digital watch. It's really convoluted, instructions badly translated to Chinese. It's very hard to understand. And the electronics wasn't terribly reliable. And so I wanted to be able to control it better and ideally program it via the internet. So I first off opened it up, see if I could hack into the electronics. There's a lot in there. For the price, about £30, they've packed a lot in, and there's about 5 or 6 things you need to control all the right times to get dispensed food. Which I could do, but it's quite a lot of work. But then I discovered a wonderful hack. When you turn this on, it needs to calibrate itself because it's got mechanics inside. It doesn't know what state the mechanics are. So whenever you put the batteries in and turn it on, it then rotates all the mechanics to make sure everything's working. It gets it to a known state and then ready to program. But by going through rotating all the mechanics, it happens to dispense a portion of food. So I realised if I just soldered some wires into the battery compartment and instead run it off a 6-volt mains adapter, all I have to do is put some power onto those 2 wires for a couple of minutes, long enough for it to dispense the food, turn it off again, and I've automated dispensing. So I used a Raspberry Pi and with a Wi-Fi dongle and a relay board. So it's just a series of switches that can be connected to a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino and just turn things on and off. So I've got 2 of those connected to cat feeders, and I've also got 1 connected to the webcam so I can reboot the webcam if it crashes, which occasionally happens. I wrote a web page where you can put in a schedule when I want to feed her and turn the webcam on and off, and so I can access that from anywhere by password, and that gets pulled down by the Raspberry Pi and food dispensed. The final part of the question was where does she go? So I got this GPS tracker. I've got one here. It's called G-Pause. It's a commercial thing, quite cheap, and it just runs off a rechargeable battery for 10 to 20 hours use. Records GPS positions, where she goes, and then you take it off the collar, plug it into a computer to recharge it and to get a file with these GPS traces, which you can then put into software like this, a standard file format, and then you can plot all the points as she goes on an aerial view like this. Which is all well and good, apart from this is a very cheap device and doesn't have any error checking on it, and you get some weirdness like this. So, for example, that is my neighbourhood there. This is going several, probably a mile or 2 apart from another. And if you drill down to the data, you see she was going 426 kilometres an hour between those 2 points. For reference, the maximum speed of a cat, I think, is 28 kilometres an hour, and then only for about 10 seconds at a time before they are worn out. So you know that something's going on. But then I noticed some of these points also, as well as going really fast, had some really weird characteristics, like one was 2 kilometres in the air. So I think we're getting lift on a jet in this one. I thought, well, maybe I can use that elevation information to work out which points are wrong points. Because these are coming, I think, because cats like to hide under our cars. Cars are made of metal, GPS works on radio waves from satellites, they come down and they bounce off metal. And that means they take longer to get to the tracker, which means the tracker thinks it's somewhere else when it triangulates all these things. But the GPS elevation is height above the average sea level. It's not height above the ground. It's very hilly where I am. I thought, well, can I convert these into how high she is off the ground to see if they're incorrect? And I found that Google Maps doesn't come out very well. Google Maps has a thing where it can tell you the elevation, height of the ground, at any point on the globe. And so I wrote a bit of code that would take the coordinates I had, feed them into Google Maps, pull out the elevation, subtract that from the figure it had, so I got a height above ground level. So I can look to see that should be 0. If it's a genuine figure, it should be near to 0. So generally, if it was within 30 metres of ground level, that's probably okay. More than 30 metres, and it's definitely wrong. The more it is from 0, the more wrong that coordinate is. So I fed that through a script, and that was the trace I just showed you. I put it through my script, and it then comes down to that trace. By just automatically putting out all those points that you know to be wrong, which is a huge improvement. So that simple script just changed it from being almost useless to most people because it's so inaccurate to something that's fairly accurate. And I put this on Jess for a period of a week. This is a heat map of all the traces that she did over the course of the week. I'm still a bit unsure about some of these spiky bits. I think these may be wrong points, but I wasn't able to rule them out with the elevation data. So she mainly went there, which is my house, and this here, which I zoomed in, aerial view, and I found it's this lovely, lush wildlife paradise where loads of people's gardens all back onto each other. There's no roads, no footpaths, so she can go and get herself lost in there and chase the wildlife. So that seems to be her happy place she goes to. Generally about an hour to 2 hours at a time from all my tracking of the cat flap. So that's it for Jess The Cyber Cat. I've bought all the technology described, I've got on my store there. If you haven't been along already, do come along and have a look. You can play with Schrodinger, Jesse's stunt double, and he can go through the cat flap and you can see him triggering the notifications live. I've also got live webcams looking at the house at the moment. I'm hoping Jess is going to make an appearance later. After this talk, about 3 o'clock, I'm going to activate the internet cat feeder, so we'll dispense some food. So hopefully he'll be coming running downstairs from where she's asleep on a bed, and we'll actually have a rare view of her on webcam at the Make Faire.